Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Excuse My Frenemy, the podcast where we talk about some of the big topics of sports and where two fans of rival teams try to put their sports allegiances aside, but you know we will fail to do so. Thank you for taking the time to give us a listen. I'm Sean Brady, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Katie Cabrera. How you doing today, KC?
Hey, not too bad, not too bad. I mean, week 3's out of the way. Week 4, looking forward to this weekend. Let's get it going.
On this episode, we're going to recap week 3, like Casey just said, and we're also going to look ahead and take a peek at week 4, and then we're going to talk about the last week of baseball for regular season coming up, and then we're going to dive into the world of college football, and then we're going to go ahead and give our thoughts on the boring and lackluster press promotion for the Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant fight. That was pretty boring, I heard, right?
I mean, I don't know who you talking to, but...
You mean so something happened at the presser? I just heard it was boring and they were gentlemanly.
Oh, really? You heard it was just straightforward, a handshake, a hug, and let's get the fight going?
Hell no. I'm being sarcastic.
Nah, but I get what you mean. But that's going to be one interesting fight once we see Canelo and Plant in the ring.
So let's get it started. First topic, NFL Week 3. So of all the topics and the games and the things we could talk about week 3, Casey, what is it that you would like to talk about?
And let's get it going with the Raiders versus the Dolphins. I thought that was an interesting game. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it went to OT. Raiders pull it off. Dolphins fall to 1-2. Raiders are 3-0 and undefeated. This is the second time in 3 weeks the Raiders have won an OT game.
Especially that part. I mean, from the last time we spoke about them, the first week episode, I mean, what were your thoughts? Did you think Dolphins were going to take this game, or did you actually think the Raiders were going to pull through and make it a 3-0 streak?
Before the game, I was leaning Raiders, but it was solely because Tua was out. If Tua had played, I think the Dolphins win that game. But I will say this is also the second time the Raiders have had to come back from a 14-point deficit. So it's not like the Dolphins didn't have early control of that game. They just let them come back. And one interesting thing I heard, and I don't know if you saw this was like the 25th straight game where the Dolphins had at least one takeaway. That's crazy to me. That's a season and a half where they've had at least one takeaway in every game.
Right. No, I definitely saw that on the recap versus that game. It was interesting, I gotta admit. And to be honest, Las Vegas did put up a fight against the Dolphins. So definitely during that field goal touch and the overtime, it kind of had the Dolphins playing around on the field, making sure they were putting up a defense against them. But no, I mean, Vegas was there.
Yeah, I mean, in the overtime, both teams kicked a field goal before the Raiders kicked the last second field goal. So both teams had a shot to win that game.
Yeah, definitely.
So what were your thoughts on Derek Carr's performance?
I'm not going to lie. Derek Carr had us a little bit in the skiing road. He had one interception, but he did amazing throughout the game with the 386-yard throw and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he did pretty good as the quarterback for the Vegas team. So, I mean, I thought his performance was pretty good.
I mean, he's throwing the ball all over the place. He's leading the league in passing yards, if I'm not mistaken, and it's not even all that close. Okay, so the game I actually want to talk about is that Green Bay-San Francisco game where Green Bay jumps out to a 17-0 lead. Frisco scores right before the end of the half with Trey Lance's 2-yard run, makes it a little bit more respectable. But then in the second half, the switch was flipped and the Niners slowly started coming back to a point where they even had a 28-27 lead with 37 seconds to go. However, there's a guy on the Green Bay Packers. The last time I checked, he's pretty good, and his name is Aaron Rodgers. And within 2 throws, he got them down to field goal position so that they could kick a 51-yard game-winning field goal as time expires. So for those that don't know, KC and I, we live in the Bay Area. So this is the game we've heard about pretty much since Sunday.
Yeah, pretty much.
And oh my God, the world is ending. Every radio station, every fan I've heard in this city for the first 2 weeks is, we're going to the Super Bowl. One game against a good team. What's wrong with the Niners? What should we start Trey Lance? Like, you would think that they were 0-3 after this week.
In all honesty, I thought the Niners did a great job against the Green Bay. Let's start off with all the injuries that they had in week 2. going on to week 3. I think they put up a good challenge against the Green Bays. We saw that, in all honesty, it's just whoever had the ball last that would be able to take it away. And luckily, Green Bay had it. What would have been your perspective if the Niners had the ball last?
Well, I honestly think their intent was to have the ball last. It's just that they scored too quickly because you have a throw to Juszczyk, who, let's be honest, he is not thinking about laying down on the 1 yard line. He's thinking about getting in the end zone. I think Kyle Shanahan's ultimate plan was to get closer, to take more time off the clock, but they just, as weird as it's going to sound, they executed too well.
Okay, I could see.
So I think their plan was to have the ball last.
Yeah.
It's just too much time for Aaron Rodgers. And oh, by the way, I don't actually put that on San Francisco, because I don't know if you heard one of Aaron Rodgers' interview earlier this week. That first throw to Davante Adams that went for, I want to say, like 25 yards, that was a play that they didn't draw it up on Thursday, but they altered it on Thursday at practice. The original plan, Davante Adams was not supposed to be where he was, and they tweaked it after what they saw in the Niners defense. So theoretically speaking, the Niners did everything right. It's just that game film preparation, Green Bay made an adjustment and took advantage of it to get down the field.
Well said. I agree with that all the way. So that leads me to my next question to you, and I think you know where we're heading with this, but week 4, how are we going to be looking at? I mean, that's the big talk right now. Seattle, just a little bit upper from us, up north. How do you feel like the Niners are going to do against the Seahawks?
Well, is there a way both teams can lose? Because I would really love that. So you're not going to like what I have to say as far as what I think the game will be. And I'm not going to do the outright prediction yet because we're going to get to that. But I will point out that during the Green Bay game, Green Bay's offensive line was out 2 starters.
Right.
And I heard something to the effect of they had 2 guys on their offensive line. That was their first game. They had another guy, it was his second game. And they had another guy who was his third game. That's 80% of their offensive line that has 3 games or less experience. What surprised me is they dominated the Niners' defensive line. Bosa was practically irrelevant. Now, with that in mind, Seattle doesn't have that kind of offensive line. They haven't had an offensive line probably since Russell Wilson has been there. So that concerns me. But Russell Wilson is always the answer to pass rush, is he just escapes and he throws it 80 yards to lock it.
I mean, yeah.
So I do think there's advantage that the Niners are at home. After what I saw last week by both teams, I just want them both to lose. I don't even know who I want to win. What do you think is going to happen?
I honestly think it's going to be a very challenging game for the Seahawks. And, you know, this is my team I'm speaking for. Over the past 2 weeks that we've been playing, I mean, there's a lot of adjustments we got to be making. Especially, I mean, that hard loss that we had against the Titans was kind of, it was irking. It was irking, and it kind of made me realize that, damn, that should have been a kind of an easy win for the Seahawks. But then week 3 came in, and we got demolished. And I'm not saying that because, you know, Wilson wasn't throwing his passes, Lockett wasn't catching it. It's just more of there's no sense of defense line. You know, every time it's just like you said, Wilson was always escaping through the little grounds that he had and kind of juking through his way and making sure the ball was landing in the hands that he was throwing it to. So for week 4 against the Niners, I think it's going to be a good challenge because the Niners have been putting up a good close games throughout the 3 weeks, and Green Bay was a very close match against a very good team. So we shall see what happens in week 4.
You want me to try to cheer you up a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Throw the hit. Throw the hit.
You're sitting there saying the game with Minnesota was a case of where Russell Wilson had no protection and he was running for his life. That has been the Seahawks formula for 10 years. So You guys have been pretty good so far. At least I didn't bring up the Super Bowl with the Patriots. But anyway.
Ouch.
Okay, so my week 4 question is, what's wrong with Kansas City Chiefs? They let the Chargers come into their house and take a game that nobody, well, I wouldn't say nobody, most people did not expect the Chargers to win. Because historically, the Chargers don't win those games. So I asked the question last week, because we both picked the Chiefs, but I did throw in the caveat that if the Chargers win, what point do we start asking the question of whether or not the Chiefs are who we thought they were? But I had to do some digging. And at first, everything I was reading was, untimely turnovers by Mahomes, or what's wrong with their offense, and all that good stuff. But I don't think their offense is the problem, because I started looking at the games that they have played, and they have put up a ton of points. They've just given up more. Their defense, and I'm going to go through some stats, this is what made me realize that the defense was the problem. Currently, their defense is giving up over 31.5 points per game. That is tied for last in the league with the Detroit Lions. Think about that for a second. A team that we thought was going to win the Super Bowl is tied in any statistical category with the Detroit Lions.
Yikes.
They're also giving up 430 yards per game, which is 30th in the league. They're giving up over 160 yards rushing, which is also 31st in the league. So it's not like people airing it out on them. They're just cramming it down their throat. And then here's where I think is the big problem that they need to fix. They are averaging giving up 12 points in the fourth quarter. So everybody keeps focusing on, hey, what's wrong with the Chiefs and with their offense? But I don't think their offense is the problem. So if you're asking the question, how do you fix the defense? If I knew, I wouldn't be talking on this podcast. I'd probably have a coaching job in the NFL. But I can tell you what the answer is not. Apparently this week they're going to go sign Josh Gordon, who's just coming off of his suspension. So let's address our defense by just adding more firepower.
Right.
Because teams are also taking away the big play. And that's what they were built on the last 3-4 years, is the big play and the ability to come back. People are taking that away, and they're saying, we dare you to find another way to beat us. And they haven't adjusted. So with all that, Casey, what do you think might be wrong with the Chiefs?
For God's sakes, just give them a new defense line. That's all I'm going to say.
Just a whole new defense. Fire everybody.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, the Chiefs have always been a talk and have always been in my ear about, Chiefs. But me to sit down and actually watch one of their games, nah. But from what I hear and from what you're saying, they're not really looking in strategies on how they could work with what they got. They're just, like you said, adding more firepower.
Yeah, and by the way, the Chargers had every right to go for the touchdown instead of the field goal, because what in the history of the Chargers makes you think they're going to make a game-winning field goal? But I digress.
Thanks. Yeah, that too with the Chargers. Okay.
Now it's time to move on to our predictions for this coming weekend. So, quick update on the standings. KC is 3-2, and I'm 2-3. And the only reason there's a difference is because we finally disagreed on the last game. And she just happened to pick the team that I wanted. So, not that I'm holding a grudge, but I'm just saying there should be an asterisk to these standings so far. So, let's start going down the list. First off, KC, the battle of the undefeateds. You got the Arizona Cardinals going to LA to face the Rams.
LA Rams will take it all the way. Have you not been seeing their performance? Oh, God.
So I have seen the Rams perform very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to lie to you, this game absolutely scares me to death. As they say, however, there's no way I'm picking the Rams. Come on, Red Sea. Come on, Kyler Murray. I want to see at least 2 or 3 Baby Yoda poses in the end zone. I want the Cardinals to win this game. What do you say?
All right, so we have settled our differences once again. Excuse my frenemy. So that leads us to the next one. Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco Niners. Please, God, please tell me you know what I'm thinking. Of course the Seahawks are going to take this game. I mean, we had 2 bad games in the past 2 weeks, but come on, Niners? No way. No way we're going to let them take us.
Yeah, I disagree.
What?
Sorry. Again, I wish both teams could lose, but I think the Niners' biggest problem has been, well, besides their depleted running back core, but they have started slow in pretty much every game they played except Detroit, which doesn't count to me. Sorry. I could see where Kyle Shanahan gets some focus and says we cannot start slow. However, if Seahawks jump out to a nice lead, you guys also have a tendency to give up the lead. So even if they jump up, I still see the Niners coming back. Yeah. So I got the Niners. As much as I hate to say it, go Niners. Although if the Seahawks win, both of you are 2-2, and it leaves more room. But no, we're still going. Go Niners.
Ouch. That leads us to Baltimore versus Denver.
Baltimore is 2-1, and Denver is one of the surprises of the league. They're 3-0, and it's in Denver.
Oh, it's a home game.
But I can't pick Denver because they haven't played anybody. At least the Ravens have played somebody, so I got to go with Baltimore.
You know, even though they haven't played anybody just yet, they've been getting a good 3 weeks in. So I'm going to give it to Denver just to keep us going with this. I honestly think Denver's going to take it away again. Once again, that 3-0 has them motivated, wanting to get more wins into them. So Denver will take this home.
Okay, so moving on to the next one, we have the return, as I've been hearing it called all week. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucs are bringing their 2-1 record back to New England to face Bill Belichick, and whose Patriots are 1-2. KC, I'm going to let you go first, but who you got?
Patriots. I got the Patriots on this. It's going to be a really tight game, but in all honesty, I think Patriots have something to say. At the same time, Tom Brady has something to say too back to them, but this game is going to be close to heart, and I have to give it to my Patriots.
Yeah, no way.
Yes.
Sorry. I know my second cousin Tom burned me last week when I picked him over the Rams, but that's not happening again. And Bill Belichick could be the greatest genius on earth. However, his rookie quarterback isn't what Tom Brady was while he was there, so the no receivers I have doesn't quite work the same way when you don't have a 7-time Super Bowl champ behind that offensive line. So I'm going with Tampa Bay, and I'm going in a blowout.
Damn. Okay. Just like that, huh? We shall find out.
Of course, I don't know why you're upset. That means I'll be wrong. And then our last game of the week, the Monday night game. The undefeated Las Vegas Raiders are going to L.A. to play the Chargers, who are 2-1, coming off that big win over the Chiefs. KC, who you got?
LA Chargers on this. I'm going to give it to the LA Chargers. Don't get me wrong. We're playing West Coast to West Coast, but it's definitely going to have to be the LA Chargers that are going to be taking away against the Rams. I mean, that game was very close with the Chiefs, and that's a pretty good game that they put up against. I honestly think Chargers are going to take it away.
So I am actually disappointed right now.
Why?
Because I actually thought for a second that we were going to go opposite directions on all 5 games. Because I thought you were going to take the Raiders. As not the founder of the Justin Herbert fan club, but a card-toting member of the Justin Herbert fan club, I am on board for him giving Las Vegas their first loss, especially at home.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so with all that, now we can move on to our second topic.
Can we talk about something else?
It is now time to move on to our second topic, the MLB, the last week of the regular season. So, here's what we know so far, KC. We know the Giants and the Dodgers are going to finish with the best 2 records in the National League. One of them will win the division. The other one will face St. Louis in the wild card game because St. Louis has decided they're just never going to lose again. I believe they're on a 17-game winning streak as we speak. Milwaukee is going to be the second seed in the National League, and they will face the winner of whoever wins the AL East between the Braves and the Phillies. Tampa Bay has clinched the AL East championship, and they look like they are most likely going to end up with the number 1 seed. The Chicago White Sox have clinched the AL Central, but they're still not a seed determined for them yet because Houston is close behind them, and Houston looks like they're going to most likely win the AL West. The one part that has yet to be decided in any way, shape, or form is the American League wild card race. There are 2 spots for 5 teams. Right now, the Yankees are up 2 games, holding on to that first wild card spot. Boston is clinging onto the second wild card spot right now, but the Seattle Mariners of all teams are all of a sudden hot, and they're only a half game back from the Red Sox. A half game back from Seattle is the Blue Jays. And then the Oakland Athletics are technically in it. They're not mathematically eliminated, but they're 3.5 back, and they would have to jump 2 more teams to get it. So for all intents and purposes, they're probably done. So with all that information, Casey, who you got making the 2 wild card spots in the American League?
I in all honesty, Sean, I have to give it to. Damn, I'm gonna say the New York Yankees is gonna be one of them for sure. And then it's a really tough one between the Bostons and Toronto. So you know what? I'm just gonna pick the odds. Toronto.
Okay. My answers are different than yours,
Oh.
which I love because then one of us could hold this over the other one next week for a while. I got Boston getting the first wild card spot.
What?
Only because yes, you heard me, Boston, because their schedule. They have their last 2 series are against the Baltimore Orioles
and Washington.
and the Washington Nationals.
Damn it! Damn.
I'd see them easily going 5-1, at worst 4-2. So I see them jumping ahead of the Yankees because the Yankees are also playing Toronto.
Yeah.
I see those two battling each other.
Guess who I chose, ladies and gentlemen?
Yep.
AC chose Yankees and Toronto. Round of applause.
So my second one is going to surprise you, and this is more tug at the heartstrings than it is logic. But I want to see the Seattle Mariners make the playoffs. They have not made the playoffs since 2001. If for no other reason, for the sake of their fans, get in the wild card and at least get one game in the postseason for the first time in 2 decades. Right. So I think if you combined Boston's schedule, Seattle's schedule, and the fact that the Yankees and the Blue Jays are going to be playing each other, I see Boston and Seattle.
Okay. All right. We'll find out. But damn it, I did not. Toronto versus Yankees, Yankees versus Toronto. Damn it!
Always look at the schedule. So now that we've made those picks, now we can move on to our third topic. Moving on to our next topic, college football. All right, KC, let me give you the rundown of the top 10 real quick. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Oregon. Number 4, Penn State. Number 5, Iowa. Number 6, Oklahoma, who dropped from number 4 despite winning. Number 7, Cincinnati. Number 8, Arkansas, moves up 8 spots after beating A&M. Number 9, Notre Dame. They move up 12 spots after they beat Wisconsin. And number 10 is Florida, who trades spots with OSU, who was 10 last week. Every team on this list is undefeated except for Florida. As we do each week, KC, let's go through our who's in the playoffs. Who's your number 1 team in the playoffs?
I know everybody's expecting me to come out with some BS about USC being my top number 1, but let me tell you, we'll get back into that. My number 1 will be Alabama. Alabama will be taking their number 1 spot, continuing on. Number 2 spot, I still want to give it to Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is going to have some pretty good games going on, and they'll be moving up the rankings pretty soon. Leading that to Oregon. Oregon will be my top number 3. And my last and final, I'll give it to Georgia.
Okay, so it sounds like you sobered up this week, because last week you sounded drunk.
Yeah.
All the picks you were making last week, I was like, who are you, and what have you done with Katie? We're close on this. I also have Alabama number 1, because until further notice, they will remain there.
Right.
I still have Oklahoma number 2, because they stumbled, but they won. And they have no other ranked opponents on their schedule until the middle of November. So they got a month and a half to get right. My number 3 is still going to be Georgia, and I think they could be number 1, depending on if they beat Alabama in the SEC game. If both teams are undefeated, I see whoever wins that SEC title game number 1, and whoever loses at number 3. Okay. And the only reason I say number 3 is because they probably don't want to make them number 4 and have a rematch of the SEC title game in the first round of the playoffs. That's the only reason I'm sticking to that.
Fair game.
My number 4 team is Oregon. However, I'm not convinced. They just played Arizona, a team that the week before had lost to Northern Arizona University, which is an FCS school, but they gave Oregon a fight. The score looks bad, but KC, that game was 27-19 up until about 8.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. That game was way too close than it should have been if you're going to be a title contender for Oregon.
Really? Okay.
All right, so KC, we got each of our top 4 in there. Who's your next 2 teams out?
So my next 2 teams are that I believe that are going to be looking into it is going to be Notre Dame and Florida. Those are my top 2 teams. I mean, right now we're starting off pretty slow, and we're still in week 5. So by next week, I expect Notre Dame to move at least 2 spots up, and Florida at least 1 spot up.
All right, KC. When I make predictions, what do I always say? I always say, look at the schedule. Because here's my next 2 teams out. The first team is whoever ends up being the Big Ten champ, whether it be Iowa or Penn State, which, by the way, they play October 9th. My next team out is really going to be whoever wins a game this weekend. Because I don't know if you've noticed, KC, your beloved Cincinnati Bearcats are playing the Golden Domers of Notre Dame this weekend. So whoever wins that game, I have them as my second team on the outside looking in, but with room to improve.
Damn you sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I am 24 years old. Yeah, but to be fair, you are right. I'm looking at the schedule for next week, and I'm kind of like, why did I choose Notre Dame knowing they're going to be versus my beloved Cincinnati that I have way too much hope for?
Would you like to know the answer?
Sure.
You just said it, because you're 24 and you're living in the now. I'm 39 and I'm looking ahead. I'm looking ahead in life. You're living large right now. That's why. At least you're sober this week and you're not doing something crazy like picking USC as number 1.
That did sound crazy last week, didn't it? Looking back to it now. I was like, what the hell was I thinking? Especially after their game against Oregon. I mean, come on. There's a lot of talk right now with USC. What are you thinking? I just want to know your thoughts real quick before I start on mine.
I can sum it up in 2 words. They're toast. Back to you.
Fair. But pretty much, I mean, there's a lot of talk, especially after their ex-coach has kind of that when someone talks about USC's ex-coach, we're talking about someone who never put a lot of influence or motivation into their players. We're talking about USC going out to the field and just focusing on one player only to make that game happen for them. Where the hell is the offense line? Where the hell is the quarterback? Where the hell is everybody else? Meaning to say, every time when USC touches a ball, it's like a pickup game. So I don't really blame the assistant coach for trying new plays, new game techniques. I actually blame the players. They're not taking it so serious, meaning they're going to be leading off to more losses in the near future. This should also be in a quick account of who's going to be taking over for USC's head coach. In all honesty, from what I'm seeing right now, I could see them leaving the assistant coach and having him work his magic and bringing the team back together a bit before they choose a new head coach. That's on my perspective, but we shall see.
Not that I'm in the business of making you feel better, but it could be worse. You could be an Arizona Wildcat fan.
Why?
I mean, I've lost count of how long their losing streak is. And they just, again, they did good against Oregon, but the week before they lost to Northern Arizona University. All you need to know about them is their mascot is the Lumberjacks.
Yeah.
Need I say more?
No, please just keep it there. I mean, in all honesty, we're looking... Take a look at this. We have the first game against San Jose State with USC, who they led 30-7. Great game. But then they lose it towards the more bigger leagues. Stanford versus USC, we saw 42-28 on week 2. And then week 3, we go back to Washington State. What the hell happened? 45-14, USC takes it. But once you go back again to a bigger league, Oregon, 45-27. So we're getting there. We're getting there, boss. We're getting close to Arizona.
All right, Casey, I hear what you're saying, but let me run down the Arizona Wildcats football for you. Start out the season against BYU. They lose 24-16. Then they lose to San Diego State in a blowout, 38-14. Then they go and they lose to Northern Arizona. That was at least a close one, but you lost to Northern Arizona. And then you have that performance against Oregon, which I give them nothing but props for, but ultimately you still ended up losing 41-19. Do you still want to trade teams with me?
Hold on. You said Northern Arizona right now? Yeah, I don't want to argue with you.
I rest my case.
There is no arguing with you on this one. But Jesus, what the hell happened to Arizona?
Maybe now you're starting to see why I'm not completely in depth with college football, as most people are, because my team sucks.
You know, you and your team.
I should say one of my teams sucks, because Arizona State is respectable, but Arizona is bad enough for the entire state to be ashamed. And with that, now we can move on to our final topic.
Ladies and gentlemen, the talk we have been waiting for. Canelo Alvarez and Khalid Plant's MMA presser fight. I know you had something to say earlier before we started this, but bring it up to the audience real quick.
So, in every time I've seen, whether it be boxing, MMA, whether it be a presser, whether it be a weigh-in, there's always been at least one person, if not multiple people, on stage with the competitors to ensure that there is no brouhaha. From what I could tell on this instance, those two fighters were the only guys on stage and were surprised that they ended up trading punches. I'm wondering who the hell was in charge of that press conference to leave them up there by themselves and risk your pay-per-view event getting thrown out the window. I don't care what they said to each other. People talk smack to each other at pressers and weigh-ins all the time, but there's always somebody to stop them. So, Showtime, where the hell were you on keeping those two guys separated? And that's all I got to say.
I mean, I kind of wish they let the fight go on a little bit more. That I'm just saying, after they exchanged their punches, Canelo didn't even try hard with his punch and left a cut on his right cheek on Plant. I mean, imagine the damage he would have done if nobody rushed towards them and grabbed them apart. I honestly think this is going to be one interesting match to watch. In all honesty, I honestly think this press conference, they thought it was going to be humble, but instead things turned a little bit south towards the end of it. Canelo is very known to be a very humble person. I think what sparked him more was Plant talked about his mother, and then he told him that Alvarez was a drug cheat. So that's kind of interesting and a powerful word to say, because pretty much he just told Canelo that throughout your whole career of boxing, you've been pretty much making it forward because you have all this money of, you know, how we say it in Spanish, los narcos, holding you back. Should be.
So first of all, I know why you wanted them to keep fighting, because you wanted the pay-per-view for free.
Yes.
You're not kidding anybody. That's why you wanted them to fight on.
If you're living in the Bay Area, life is hard. That's all I got to say. So every penny counts.
But the other thing I found interesting when I was actually reading up on this is, from what I understand, Plant never said anything about Canelo's mother. What he did is he called him a mother bleeper. And Canelo took that as the don't talk about my mama, which last time I checked, if you're calling somebody a mother bleeper, you're not talking about their mother. They're talking about you.
Yeah. But Canelo doesn't really, he's not very fluential in English. I mean, he started picking it up more and more every year. So the fact that he could have, kind of misinterpreted it or kind of took that the wrong way could have happened. However, she'll let the boys handle that out. That's all I'm saying.
But Canelo has called people that. So he knows what he should. Well, let me rephrase. If he's calling other people that, he should know what it means. Now, maybe he muttered it to him, and then all he heard was mother, whatever. It doesn't matter to me, because the point is there still should have been somebody to break it up. That cut that's under his right eye, if that's bad enough to a point where he has to pause his training, this fight's going to get postponed. Right there, if it gets postponed, somebody's getting a pink slip.
Well, it better not be postponed. That's all I got to say. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time. Episode 2 has been concluded. However, though, give us a like or a shout out on Twitter. Let us know what we're doing wrong, what you want to hear, what you have questions about, and what you want to hear on your next few topics for next week. Definitely want to give a shout out to Amanda Barrios. Thank you for liking and retweeting my stuff. I see you, girl. You wanted a shout out. There you go. Quick shout out to you. Please let Javi know what he wants to hear on this podcast. Anything you want to say, Sean?
I just wish I had friends that I could get shout outs to.
Debbie? He won't do it, but I will. Shout out to you, girl. Thank you for retweeting my stuff.
Where can they find you on Twitter?
You guys can find me at Katie1728, or you could also hit me up on Instagram, Katie 3E's, last name Cabrera.
Well, if the folks want more of me, first of all, they need to seek therapy. But secondly, if they want to find me, they can follow me on Twitter too. I'm at Sean_Brady82. That's SHAWN_BRADY. That's right. I spell it the right way. All right, Katie. It was a good time. What do you say we do it again next week?
You got it, Sean. Just hit me up.
All right. I'll see you then.
All right.